When I got amputated, they said to me, you go through something called, it's like a cycle of grief. So losing your limbs is the same as you losing a loved one. Happened. I mean, I have my down days, if I'm being completely transparent with you, as everyone does. And this has definitely left scars mentally, but I don't know when or if it's affecting me and how it's going to affect me. And when I woke up out of the induced coma, believe it or not, was the first thing I said to my wife, right? Well, obviously I was a bit like, what's going on, blah, blah, but within the first week I said to her, listen, go and buy a cannon from Dixon's down the road because I'm going to fight this, so let's blog this.
Junaid,
Hello.
welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
This is like a first, I think. I've had people on talking about a few different things that I think a lot of people can relate to, but yours is a very unique story that I don't think many of us would think that we would find ourselves in this situation.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I wanted you to come on is like I'm still sort of curious and like perplexed almost as to how you've ended up where you've ended up, basically. Because I don't think anybody in their right mind would be like, I want to be in that situation. And the difficulties that how difficult that would make somebody's life. So I don't, I had somebody on like talking about cancer, and nobody wants to get cancer, but to some extent we see so many people go through it. It's like normalized. At best, that silly sort of joke scenario that people would, like kids and everybody would throw out, like, what would you rather? It was like, lose an arm or a leg or whatever. That's the only time you would think about these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's actually happened to you.
Yeah.
Which is insane. I would never think I would have met anybody or known anybody that would be in that situation. And to be honest with you, I've never even thought about how it happens. I think we all just assume it's like a freak accident or something like that, but then, which it is maybe some of the times. But your story stuck out to me a little bit. Your circumstances stuck out to me a little bit, and I was curious to basically know, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, coming to your point, I mean, yeah, I never thought it was going to ever happen to me, or we always joke about these sort of things, right? And then when it actually happened, I was like, well, I was taking life for granted, and but that's why I'm trying to live the best I can. But in terms of what happened to me, so it started in 2020 September time. So what happened is I started getting a pain in my right foot when I actually had my leg. So it was I know now it was a neuropathic pain, basically. I lost a lot of weight over a period of 3 years. Now, there's loads of, maybe it's because of this, maybe because of that. That's why I said I lost a lot of weight. I'll come back to that. But I started getting this pain in my foot around September time. And I was like, it was so random. It wasn't a case of I fell over or something happened to me and I started getting the pain. Literally, I went out one night, and then the next morning I woke up and it felt like it was like a blowtorch was at the bottom of my foot. It was like a burning sensation. So I was like, well, I've never had this before. Went to a doctor. Doctor said it takes some painkillers. I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was nothing significant. And then I was like, okay, fine. I gave it a month, and I was like, okay, this is still not getting better. And then I went to private hospital, trying to figure out where this pain has come from. They did tests, they did CT scans, MRIs, they did these tests with mine to test if it was the nerves. They couldn't figure it out. And in the end, I think it was around February, March time, the following year, I saw a doctor and he said to me, you've got long-term pain syndrome. And when you've had pain for such a long time, when someone says to you, I know what it is, you instantly feel like, okay, finally someone's got a solution. So he's like, okay, this is what you've got. This is what we can do. So initially there was two options. There was one option. He said, we're going to try these nerve killing agent type injections in your spine. So I was like, okay, let's try it. So they did that. I think it was after a month. We're going now into around April time maybe, and he tried it. 2 weeks went past, didn't work. So he was like, okay, come back. We'll try a stronger injection, but in a different part of your spine. So I was like, okay, cool. Go back again. Now we're into May time, and he's like, okay, we tried it again, didn't work. Then finally we got to around June time of 21, and he said, okay, this obviously hasn't worked, so maybe we try, I'm getting my years mixed up, it was 20 or 21. He was like, okay, let's try what they had released is this little device the size of a pacemaker, and it goes into the lower section of your back, and then out of this little device, size of literally that big, it has 2 wires which go up your spine, and those 2 wires, they almost make your brain think that the pain isn't there, so mask the pain.
Wow.
Right? So again, I thought, I wasn't thinking ifs or buts, or what if this happens, what if that happens. I was thinking, this guy's got a solution, let's go for it. So now we've got the date booked in for the operation. Went in for the operation around June time, and he done the operation, inserted the device, but went home, and I thought, okay, this still isn't working, because I was stepping on the foot, and that device, it wasn't working because I could still feel the burning sensation. So then I rang the doctor and I said, look, I want to come in for a checkup because I don't think this is working. Like I thought straight away it would feel numb. I wouldn't feel that burning sensation. So he booked it in, and I said, okay, cool, I'll be back in a month or so. But a week after that operation, I started getting a fever. So I rang the hospital and I said, listen, I've got a fever. I've just had an operation. This shouldn't have happened. Why have I got a fever? They said to me, check the scar. If the scar hasn't got any swelling or any nasty smell or redness, it's fine. Just clean it and give us a call back in a couple of days. So I was like, okay, cool. Cleaned it. The same night or the following morning, I said to my wife, this isn't right. I feel I've got a really, really bad temperature. We need to go to hospital. So I said, okay, right. So we went to hospital. When I got to hospital, the last thing I remember, waiting in A&E, we had something to eat because the wife was like, you haven't eaten for a couple of days, try to eat. So we had something to eat, and yeah, that's the last thing I remember. So I passed out. The temperature basically spiked. They put me into an induced coma because the body was trying to kill itself because I had sepsis. But on top of sepsis, because sepsis basically is a blood infection, but on top of sepsis, I also had another disease called HLH. So HLH is a deficiency of the immune system. So on one side, I had sepsis trying to kill me, and on the other side, I had this immune system deficiency, which basically meant my immune system couldn't protect me from the sepsis. So both of these things together was trying to kill me. So they put me into a induced coma because they said to my parents and my wife that, listen, if we don't put me into a coma, the body's going to basically shut down. And they basically said to my wife, I had 20% chance of survival. So, but at the hospital I was at, which I won't name, the hospital I was at, they couldn't figure it out. I always would say this, they basically threw the book at me because they gave me chemotherapy, they gave me so many different medications, they gave me so many different steroids, but nothing was working. It's only because this random consultant doctor came in from UCLH, and he saw me, and within 2 minutes he was like, get him to the hospital. They blues and choose me from that hospital to UCLH, and the people at UCLH, they basically saved my life. But what happened is, because of the blood infection, when they then did the blood diffusion, the blood diffusions to clean the blood, when the blood was circulating, certain parts of my body, the blood just didn't go back. So the blood didn't go back to the left arm below the elbow. So the left arm went completely cold and black because it literally was like, it was stone basically, it was just black. The leg below knee went completely black. There was no feeling in there. And my left toes completely black. So that's the reason why they then when I woke up out the coma, I mean, I was in a state anyway, which we'll get into, but I had everything intact. But 5-6 months after I started getting my strength back and my weight back, they said to me, Mr. Ahmed, you can keep the arm and the leg, but there's literally no point, and there's a chance of that going elsewhere if you don't drop it, if you don't get rid of it. So yeah, I said, look, I'm gonna get it amputated. I can't use it anyway, and then we'll figure out the rest as we go. So that's the story. And I was in hospital for a year, basically. I was in hospital about a year, about 1 year. I spent 9 months at UCLH, and then I spent a month and a half, 2 months at Lambeth Rehab Centre, learning how to walk again.
Wow, that is... Thing is, listening to that, I obviously didn't go through it, but it's not easy listening to that whole story. That you know, I'll ask you, because you've probably now told that story a good few times.
Yeah,
It's not the first time
as you can tell.
Yeah. How does it feel telling the story now? Is it still a difficult thing to process, or are you kind of in a different space with it all?
I don't know. That's probably the honest answer. When I got amputated, they said to me, you go through something called it's like a cycle of grief. So losing your limbs is the same as you losing a loved one. I don't think I've hit that yet. Like, I think I'm somewhere in that circle, because mentally, as you've probably seen on my social media, mentally I think I'm strong, and that's why I'm always smiling and I do what I do. But I feel like at some point it's gonna come to a stage where telling the story and thinking about the story is gonna hit me, but I just don't know where that is yet or when that's gonna happen. I mean, I have my down days, if I'm being completely transparent with you, as everyone does. And this has definitely left scars mentally, but I don't know when or if it's affecting me and how it's going to affect me. So to answer your question, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's strange. I don't mind telling the story, but I don't know what that means.
One of the things I was thinking about before we, met today was just how much people who are not they've got all 4 limbs, arms, legs, toes, fingers, eyes, that like physiologically there's nothing really wrong with them, and how much most people get down and caught up and their self-esteem beaten down by the way that they look, or their ability to lift this weight versus this weight, or how far they can run or whatever. And to think that how much we then all take that for granted, right? Like, oh, I didn't manage to deadlift 120 kilos like today, and therefore I'm pretty rubbish. And it's like, but what if you couldn't even pick the bar up? Like, what then?
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, like, and because you're in the situation, but hypothetically, you're almost like, for me, I would almost imagine that being soul crushing. Like, there's a way out, but I can imagine most people would find themselves in such a dark tunnel. And I don't think everybody would end up coming out of that tunnel, or seeing the light at the end. You've obviously put a very positive face on it, to even make content around it and to even be here today talking about it is a great demonstration of strength on your part. And I don't think that's what the average person would be expected to do. I don't even know if I would do that, right? And fair enough, I make content and all the rest of it. I don't know what I would do in that situation. And I'm one of those people that I was just describing.
Yeah.
Right? I do get down about those things.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I thought about it. Yeah, like, so I couldn't possibly fathom your mental state at times.
And I've surprised myself, but I think that's the recruiter in me. So the job of recruitment as a job teaches you that you don't take no as an answer. You find a solution no matter what the barrier is. There's always some sort of solution to that barrier. And when I woke up out of the induced coma, believe it or not, the first thing I said to my wife, right, well, obviously I was a bit like, what's going on, blah, blah, but within the first week I said to her, listen, go and buy a cannon from Dixon's down the road because I'm going to fight this, so let's blog this. That's literally the first week I said to her, like, I don't know what's going to happen, how it's going to happen. At that point, I was lying in bed and I was like, Dad, why can't I lift my hand up? Like, because of everything that happened and the way the muscles were affected, the only thing I could move was my neck. Like, I could do that just about, but my arms and my leg, like, I started like a baby. I literally like a baby. I had to learn to move my fingers first, then I had to learn to move my hand, then I had to learn to move my arm, then I had to move my elbow, then I had to learn to move my shoulders. So everything I had to learn, then I had to get my core strength back to be able to sit back up, which didn't happen I didn't sit for a year. So, but point being, at the beginning, I didn't know all this, like how I was going to overcome it. I just knew I had to overcome it because there was a wife sitting there and 2 kids. And I was like, there's no choice of like give up or like, I'm not going to be able to do this, not going to be able to do that. My mindset was, come out and we're going to fight this. Like, however long it takes, we're going to fight it. So I surprised myself, if I'm being honest, most.
That is incredible. What would you say, how much of that is you as an individual and how much of that is your wife and kids, that motivation?
That's a good question. I would say 80% of it is kids and 80% of it is them. It's not about me, it's about them. Because look, at the end of the day, I always make a joke, right? I was sleeping. I was in an induced coma, so I was sleeping. But they were going through it. The wife was going through it, the parents, the kids, right? They went through, they've got scars. They must have scars from what they've been through. So I feel like I need to be the role. I'm a role model, not just to the public, but to the kids, to show them, look, stuff happens in life, but you can overcome it. So yeah, I want to see my kids. Like, we're going to go into, I'm sure we're going to talk about me being in the gym and things. Do you think I want to get up at 6 a.m. and go gym and for an hour and a half, 2 hours? I do it because I want to lose the weight. I want to get in a better shape. I want to make walking easier for myself so we can go on more holidays and do those activities that we were planning to do when I had all 4 limbs, right? So, and the same thing with my wife, like, as a husband, as a male especially, you have this mentality that you've got to be the fire, you've got to be the provider, right, in a marriage. And that's not changed. For me, I work 5 days a week. Like, people become mad. Within 3 months of me being home, I was back to work because I've got bills to pay. My wife shouldn't have to pay bills. My wife shouldn't have to rely on her job to pay things for her, especially as a Muslim man myself. Like, it's a mentality thing where you Islamically, we're told that we have to look after our family as a male. Like, we have to provide, we have to put a roof over their heads, we have to pay for their clothes. That's our job, and that's still my job. I don't care what anyone says, that's still my job, and no one will tell me any different. So yeah, answer your question, 80% of it is them, and the remaining is, myself, but 80% is them motivating me thinking, right, for the long term, I'm going to be around to make sure I see the things I was going to see before. So.
I think it is very hard to find. I think the general narrative and the picture that I think most of us get about somebody who's gone through what you've gone through is that this person is now living on disability. They probably don't work. They're probably they're becoming sort of like overweight, and basically they're spiraling downwards, right? Like they've basically opted to say my life's over. And that's one of the reasons why I think stories like yours and, you know, a few others that I've come across are so remarkable, because they're just completely the opposite of what you expect a person to do in that situation.
Yeah.
And whenever I meet somebody like you, again, it allows me to reframe that situation for myself as well. Like, yeah, maybe I would have been giving up, but now that I've seen somebody else not give up, would I find myself in that situation? Maybe I would actually try and get up and be like, no, I'm going to completely max out as much of my physical capacity as I can. I am going to still try and, like, you know, make the most of my life. I am still going to try and be the best person I can be for everybody around me. And I'm sure we'd all like to think that that's who we are and what we would do, but, you know, you don't know until you really test it. And fingers crossed, touch wood, most people out there, including myself, we don't have to go through that to find that out.
Yep.
But it is incredible to see, because I don't think that's the message that gets put across when people go through a situation like this.
But you don't know until you're put in a situation, whether it be something physical, disability wise, or whether it be something, I don't know, financial, for example, you lose a business or something happens within your workplace. You don't know how you react to something until you're put in that situation. It's just the way I feel that's just the way the human brain works. Yeah. There's just the way the human brain.
There's resilience there that you've shown, and I don't think it's as common as you think it is. But stories like your one is what starts to make it more common.
Yeah.
Is what makes people realize that they have more than one option in that situation.
And that's part of the reason why I do the social media thing as well, because everyone says that word influencer, but I want to show people that no matter what happens, there's always someone worse off than you, right? There's always someone worse off than you. There's people out there that's probably worse off than me, and probably doing better in terms of mental state, physical state than me as well. And the vice versa, people that, as you said before, may not be motivated to do well, right? But yeah, it's
what has so okay, you've gone through this. You've lost your arm, you've lost your leg, and you've lost all the toes. Wow. That obviously, I imagine, makes getting around and living life and doing day-to-day stuff.
Mate, do you know what? The one thing I miss the most is the toes.
Right.
The leg and arm, or the arm I forget half the time because I don't use it apart from in the gym. But the toes, because you know when you do like stairs, for example.
Okay.
You were saying earlier about things we take granted for. When you do stairs, you go like this.
Right.
Right. When you go downstairs, you go like this.
Yep.
When you go upstairs, especially when they're narrow stairs, you can only put your toes on there and go up the stair. So I can't use little stairs. I've got to make sure the stairs are deep enough for my whole foot to land on it, because I can't stand on just my toes.
Wow.
So little things you take granted for, right? So toes, sorry to interrupt you, but the toes, that's the one.
That's the one you missed the most.
That toes. If I had the toes on that side, I'd be running by now.
Wow.
I'm telling you, I'd be running by now.
That was Yeah, that significantly, like losing your toes has significantly reduced your functionality. Wow. And what is probably like from before this happened to what's happened now?
Yeah.
Other than walking up and down stairs, is there anything that like you like really sort of came out of like not came out of the blue, but you were really not expecting to have trouble with it, you ended up having trouble with?
Grating cheese.
Grating cheese.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Grating cheese is a killer. So my wife now has to leave me a bag of grated cheese in the fridge because I did it once and I was gonna literally smash something because I was standing there, no word of lie, I was standing there for 10 minutes trying to grate this cheese. Because at first I was like, let me see if I can put it in my chopping. Then I was like, let me see if I can balance it against something and grate it. I was like, okay, that's not going to work. Then I thought there must be another one. Then she had a flat one and she had this triangular one. I was like, let me see if I can. I was like, jar, grated cheese, opening cans. Oh my god, I can't opening a tin of anything because obviously you have to, you know. Luckily, I stopped smoking. I used to smoke roll-ups.
Right.
So imagine if I was trying to smoke roll-ups now. But everything else, you adapt. Like everything else, that obviously I'm missing bench press. Like, oh my god, I miss a bench.
Well, yeah, that's where I wanted to ask you, and that's where I'm kind of going with this is, you know, on your Instagram, you post a lot of videos of you training in the gym, and it's quite remarkable actually because there's a lot of problem solving, I'm sure, that's gone on there. To like, okay, how do I now do these movements or these exercises, and you know, how do I train the best? So yeah, like talk me through that a little bit. I'm really curious to know.
So when I got to hospital, big up Jermaine. There was a PT called Jermaine who I knew from before.
Okay.
Right. So he saw me, as I said earlier in the podcast, I went through that 3 years of losing a lot of weight, and he basically was involved in that quite a lot. He wasn't my PT, but he worked in that gym.
Right.
So he saw me going to spin classes. He saw me going to all of his circuit classes. He saw me there in the morning once in the morning, once in the evening. He saw me putting a graft in. So we people who see someone training that hard, they get involved free of charge anyway because they see you want to do it. So anyway, he knew me from before. So when I got to hospital, he messaged me and said to me, Junaid, I want to train you. I said, all right, cool, let's do this. All right. I said, what should we do? Like, do you want to come to mine? So first we did a bit of training at mine. We did a lot of stuff for resistant bands. He said, listen, everything we do, we have to first figure out how we're going to adapt everything. So he taught me a lot of it. He got me doing steps because it's like day to day, you're not going to be bench pressing 120 kgs. Day to day, you got to get upstairs. You got to be able to step over something on the floor. You got to be able to step over it. You got to be able to push something with this arm. You got to be able to potentially put something on this arm and then use this hand and lift it, for example. So everything he did at the beginning was all about mobility. It was nothing about strength, nothing about weight loss. It was pure mobility. So he got me doing a lot of resistance bands work. He got me doing a lot of box work. So yeah, Jermaine, for 3 months, all we did was just literally how we're going to adapt. And then from home, he got me into a gym where there was other PTs, and he wanted to get me into an environment where there's other people training, because I was a little bit nervous going back into the gym.
Yeah.
But he got me out of that system. He got me into the gym, and he was in the gym and he was doing things like taking my leg off and not giving my leg back. And then he was doing things like saying things like, "Oh, Junaid, if you want to stop doing that exercise, give me a high five with your left hand." So he got me into that jump. That it's really
no
like,
victim mentality.
Yeah, literally, like, and people on my TikTok live are like, "Mate, like, this guy, what's he doing? Why is he not helping you?" I'm like, he is helping me, but because he knew me from that 3 years from before, where he had been taking a piss at me, literally daily, he knew he could do that with me. He knew that's going to help me, not to bring me down. So Jermaine at the beginning, he basically taught me we got to adapt everything, and then it was just a lot of trial and error. So as you've seen, like, for example, bench press, now I know, like, to engage this muscle, which I can still engage my chest muscle, I now use a band attached to a weight, and that creates a tension now. So I'm able to train both my side of my chest, where I'd be up, down. Do you know what I mean? So, and then legs, like now I can't, because of the mobility in the leg, I can't bar squat, because when I go down, I still get the feeling of falling backwards.
Yeah.
So now I can only squat using a Smith machine.
How much of your knee is still there?
So I've got my up to here.
Okay, so the whole knee is still there.
Yeah, the whole knee's there. So I've got everything up to here. But the problem is because of the toes.
You can't stabilize.
That triangle you have when you do squats, I can't stabilize, right? And also, the other thing I tried is I tried putting a weight under my ankle. So I'm more like that. But what happens then is I start sliding forward in that left foot.
Right.
And
there's no grip, yeah.
The stump is hitting the end of there's a pad in here. So it's hitting the end, and that does not feel good. So that's why I can't squat.
That is so interesting. I think one of the things, there's definitely room to explore, and you're kind of like in a really interesting space to do this. It's definitely, there's obviously not the only person in the world who has lost a limb or lost a part of your body. But everybody should be able to exercise.
Yeah.
And everybody should be able to train. And there's definitely a lot of space and scope for tools and assists that basically facilitate people being able to kind of continue normal, or anything in life, grating cheese even, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, training wise, I've never really had to look at it, because I've never dealt with anybody who's lost a part of their body. But even just listening to you about the toes, and it was like, I don't know, my brain's kind of like imagining things like this sort of like slip-on foot that has sort of like, prosthetic toes that kind of create some level of grip or something that, allows someone to regain whatever it is that they've lost in terms of functionality. But you've obviously found ways to keep training all the different parts of your body. And yeah, like I'm sure we're probably not going to describe every single one of them right now and today, but I'll be putting Junaid's Instagram in the description, in the bio. So guys, if you're listening to this, you can go check it out, because you're posting videos, and it's quite remarkable to watch these videos and watch how he kind of comes up. You and your trainer come up with different ways of like getting around this, like not having an arm, like not being able to grip anything with your toes, and it's quite a thing to see, actually. And it really reinforces that hopefulness, because you're kind of like, training for me is, I'm going to admit this on camera, yes, training for me is my whole life, man. It is everything, and I don't know where I would be, who I would be without it. I have no doubt I would fall into a deep bit of depression for some time.
Yeah, same.
And to know that there is a way for me to continue, there is a way that I'd still, you get sick, or you get an injury or something, that is depressing enough.
Mate.
Let alone
that's the worst thing in the world. I remember when I had all 4 limbs and an injury in the gym, it did literally feel like it was the end of the world, because like you said, it's this it does become your whole life. Like, there's nothing wrong in you saying that. I think it does, because you can't, if you're going to train, I'm a big believer, if you're going to do gym, you can't do gym half-hearted, because half-hearted doesn't work. That's my opinion. If you're going to do gym and you want to be better fitness-wise, you got to do the whole shebang. That means food, that means sleep, that means eating. If I said eat food already, that means I said food, sleeping. Yeah, that means working out. Do you know what I mean? It's everything. It's the mental side of it as well. It's a whole lifestyle when you're working.
It's a big part of, a lot of people do make it their identity.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into the philosophical.
Yeah, I'm here all day.
Rights or wrongs, or whether that's such a good idea or not. I've drifted, definitely over time, I drifted a little bit more into how everything impacts our mental health, because my time working with people, that's the biggest takeaway that I've had. Is somebody happy? Is somebody unhappy? And then why are they unhappy? And on the surface, for a lot of us, we don't really have good enough reasons to be unhappy. you have a reason to be unhappy, and you're choosing a lot of the time not to be. And so that's why it's important to highlight individuals like yourself, that when the rest of us are wallowing in our own self-pity, with everything, and I'll touch what at this stage of my life, I really don't have, I'm a massively privileged individual, and I really don't have any surface level issues whatsoever. So it's kind of like you're choosing right now to be feeling like this. And so fine, you can unpack why that is, what led to this point, what's happened in your history. But in reality, you also have the opportunity to kind of just be like, do you know what? Life's actually pretty damn good.
Yeah.
If I want to get up to go to the gym, and if I want to do a bench press, I can do a bench press. If I want to make myself a cheese toasty before then, I can go
that's gonna stick now, isn't it? The cheese thing.
I can grate some cheese, and I can make some cheese. And so I think it's an important lesson for anybody to just understand to what level you can be very grateful for your life.
Absolutely.
Instead of looking around on the gram and seeing, oh, this person's like gone on their 7th holiday this year, or this person's driving, a G-Wagon, or this person's partner is very attractive, blah, all this stuff that people get into their heads. And nobody is, again, one of the ways that you found me was through a lady named Destiny, who I've had on the show, a very good friend of mine. She went through cancer twice. And I did that episode with her, and it's like, it was the same then. I learned through her experience how much to just appreciate everything about my situation. And more importantly, I learned from her, and what I'm learning from you, from listening, just the value and the power of resilience, and reflecting on how often I've not shown that. And there's not really a good enough reason, because life didn't challenge me that hard. Life didn't throw cancer at me. Life didn't take my limbs away. And so nowadays, I'm chock full of resilience, because I'm looking at most things. I'm like, you ain't taking my arm. You ain't threatening my life. You're not causing me agony in my day-to-day. Just a minor inconvenience.
Yep.
And I can handle it, because that person over there handled that, and that person over there handled that. So this is nothing. And so I've gone on a bit of a tangent there, but that's not even me talking on this podcast right now. That is me talking to you.
Yep.
That is what I feel inside of myself to say to you after listening to what you said. I hope more people get to hear like what you have to say, and continue to document your experience, because and I mean that very genuinely. That is the genuine impact that it has on me as a human being.
I appreciate you, man. And look, it's only been a year and a half since I've been amputated, and people are like, you need to calm down, because I'm always trying to like mind a pun, be one step ahead. But they're like, look, just slow down. Because I see, like you mentioned there about people look at the gram and they think this and that. I look at the gram and I think, right, he's missing a leg. Why can't I do that? or she's missing an arm. Why can't I do that? Wow. So that's what I look at. I look at it, I feel, well, but people will keep reminding me, mate, how long have you been at hospital? I'm like, about a year and a half. They're like, calm down. Like, inshallah, life's going to be okay. Like, the pain's going to get better, because I still do get pain at the moment.
Yeah.
The pain's going to get better. Your mobility is going to get better. And that's what my prosthesis people keep telling me. They're like, Junaid, like my prosthesis guy in Kingston, because I've got 2 legs, I've got a private one, I've got an NHS one as well. My private one, my guy, I see him on a weekly basis. And he says to me, Junaid, he just laughs at me. He's like, Junaid, because I go to him, I'm like, I want to cycle. He's like, Junaid, calm down. I'm like, I go to him, I'm like, I want to squat deeper. He goes, Junaid, calm down. I'm like, cut it here. I want to be able to put trousers on so no one can tell I haven't got a leg. And he's like, you need to just calm down. So yeah, it's just what
you're still a human being.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So yeah, man. But I appreciate your kind words, and Yeah, like you said, I hope I motivate other people, right? The missing limbs or all four limbs. I don't really care to motivate.
You already most likely have.
Yeah.
And going back to what you were talking about at the beginning or somewhere near the middle is, most importantly, you've set an example for your kids,
Yeah.
right? I don't think, if I ask most people who have children, and even like people that don't, if you ask anyone in that situation, like the only thing that they actually care about, and that's it. They only care about their kids and what their kids think of them. Everything else becomes so miniature and minute relative to that. And especially nowadays, we need more like really good examples of grit and resilience for younger people, not just young children, but like younger people in their 20s even, that are probably facing quite a challenging period of our sort of history, where there's not some clear structure or guidance or path forward, and it kind of looks like everybody's like taking shortcuts and winning big and all the rest of it, and no one's having to work hard, and that's not true.
No.
So yeah, highlighting like examples of people that are really having to, not just that one event, right? Not just the sepsis and the HLAs. Every single day after that is still difficult. And every single day you have to live it. And it sounds like you've just decided, I'm not going to take no for an answer, which is your words.
Yeah, literally.
And I like that statement. I'm not going to take no for an answer is probably what most people need to take away into their own lives and say, yeah, I'm not going to take no for an answer. Sure, didn't get that job today. Sure, didn't make that lift today. Okay, haven't saved up enough to get that thing yet. I'm not taking no for an answer today. I want to keep doing. But we need actual real people like yourself to show us that, so that we know that it's real and it's not just some motivational hoo-ha that comes from some douchebag podcaster.
I didn't say it. He said it. I didn't say nothing.
So yeah, I think I appreciate you.
No, that's amazing. And do you know what else has been quite important was, it's been my network. My network around me is strong, man. Like the people around me, I had boys who I hadn't spoken to for years rock up a hospital.
Wow.
When I was in intensive care at UCLH, I came out my coma, and two of my boys I hadn't seen in years were there, and I was like, "Raw." What? And my wife was like, "Yeah, they literally did. When they heard about you when I was at the first hospital, they came and knocked on the door when you was in a coma. They came to the hospital and saw you. Didn't know. They came to the hospital and saw you." So I like the network, and I got boys, girls, cousins, family, everyone around me. Like, they've been there for me, and I can't say thank you enough, because you need soundboards in these situations, and you need people to talk to. Counsellors do jobs, counsellors have got a job to do, but counsellors have no emotion back. They have a job to do. You sometimes need that bit of emotion back. And all the people around me, Shaquille, Kaya, Mo, Lloyd, Liam, Josh, literally, so many people I could name. Hura, my cousin, he's been there since day one. Like, one phone call away, we've been on holidays, we've been out together, we've been in restaurants, we're doing everything as we were doing before, apart from riding motorbikes at stupid speeds. That's the only thing we're due to do next year, hopefully, in China. But yeah, the network around me has helped me so much, and I think it's so important. When you go through an ordeal like this, you said earlier, some people don't have that resilience. I think there's a mixture of resilience and needing support. There's nothing wrong in putting your hand up and asking for support. I've learned that, because I used to be of that sort that, I wouldn't ask for help when I needed help. I try to figure it out myself. But now I've changed that mentality, and I put my hand up when I want help. And my wife tells me off sometimes, which I just ask me to do it. I'm like, no, I'll do it myself. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, network's very important.
Junaid, there's probably like literally a million more things that we could cover, but there's only so much time to give it today. I just want to say thank you for coming in and sharing all of that. Is there anything that you would like to leave us with? If there's someone watching this right now that's in your situation, or somebody watching this right now who has a loved one in that situation, is there anything that you would say to them to help them in this time?
I would say don't lose hope. I think is the underlining message. Don't lose hope. There is always some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. Even if that means that loved one, for example, you said if that loved ones may not come out of that, unfortunately, or they do come out of that, I think there's always a lesson to be learned along the way. I feel things always happen for a reason. My mentality is that this all happened to me for a reason, and I now have to fulfill that reason. I don't know what that reason is yet. Allah gives me signs in different ways, but I'm here to fulfill something. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm here for a reason. Otherwise, it would have taken me by now. So that's what I'm gonna leave it with.
I think even if your words are not enough, certainly your actions will be. So thank you for being an inspiration, not just to people in that situation, but I think anybody else, including myself. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.